Welcome, Laurent. It is an absolute pleasure to have you on this episode of Leadership Inside Out. It has been many years since you and I worked together, but please introduce yourself. Let the listeners know who you are.
So good to see you again, Guy. It's been indeed, I think we engaged we worked together maybe 20 years ago and then we kept slightly in touch. But yeah, very good to see you again. So yeah, let me introduce myself. I'm Laurent Bastie. I'm French. I'm 50 years old. I live in Paris now. I grew up in the southwest of France. I moved to Paris when I was 16, where I did my studies. I studied finance, economics. I wanted to work on the financial markets. And in the end, my career took me in slightly different directions. And maybe we'll talk a little bit about that. I'm the father of the three boys who are 20, 18, and 12 now. And we live, in Paris, as I said. And now I'm, in terms of, maybe we can talk about my career later as you want.
Okay. So we first met 20 years ago, 21 years ago, I think. It was a long time. We met at Microsoft. But Laurent, you talked about, living in Southwest France, being brought up. Talk me through the process. Talk me how you came to meet me 20 plus years ago in a little town called Reading, in Berkshire in the UK.
Interesting beginnings of my career at Microsoft, actually. So I joined Microsoft in 2005 after many years in consulting with Gemini Consulting, based in France, but with international projects. But in 2005, I was a bit fed up with consulting. I wanted to get in the real life of the real company, and I got an opportunity to join Microsoft in the EMEA headquarter in some kind of operations project manager, driving some projects. But when I joined, there was no scope. There was almost no manager because he had just left Microsoft, and someone talked to me to work with you on a very unknown topic to me. It was something we call cross-border staffing. It's about moving consultants between the borders, sending them from the UK to France, from Italy to Germany to deliver projects for our customers. And it seems like it's easy, but actually there are some complex regulations. How do you make sure that you meet the tax and visa constraint? Do you have the right people? Do they speak the local language? Is it going to work from a customer perspective? Plenty of things like that. And so together with Guy, we put in place a policy, if I remember correctly, about this very topic. Nobody was really interested in that at the beginning, but I think we made it interesting. And actually, it was not a short-term project, because maybe you don't know, but after this project, Guy, I kept working on those capacity management topics, capacity-related topics, and it made my part of my career at Microsoft. It was pretty successful. I moved to the US, to Seattle, spent a few years there with Microsoft. And so from a very operational topic about moving resources across the countries, I expanded the scope of these, and it was all in the end about how do we plan for the survey, for the capacity at Microsoft in terms of consulting capacity. How many consultants do we need in which country, on which technologies? How should we look at that in terms of growth? What skills do we need to build? And so I expanded the scope from just this cross-border to the overall capacity management, including the partners, etc. It was a great adventure. I really enjoyed it.
Wonderful.
So a little bit thanks to you.
I'll take whatever compliments I can get, Laurent. Before you got to Microsoft, you're at Gemini. I mean, well-known consulting firm. You were based in Paris. Was that where you'd come straight out of university?
No, so I studied, as I said, economics and finance. And then after university, I started to look for an internship or a first job. And I got the opportunity through some contacts to to go into financial management, controllership for a French automotive company in Brazil. So nothing to do with the markets, but in Brazil. That was what made me go in that direction. And so that was my first job. So I spent with the company is Valeo. So I had worked for 3 or 4 years with Valeo for Valeo. First in Brazil, 2 years based out of São Paulo, learning the job, and Valeo is a automotive parts supplier. So they make parts you find in all the cars. And it's a very tough industry with very, very thin margins. And so the finance function is key to make sure that we monitor the business precisely. And so I learned a lot there. And it was seen at the time, and I'm sure it's still the case, as almost like a management school where you learn the right tools and methodologies to manage a business from a financial perspective. So I spent 2 years in Brazil. Then my boss asked me if I wanted to move with him. He was promoted to take over the US subsidiary for that Valeo. So I moved to the US as well. I was based in Indiana. So it was kind of a change from Brazil to Indiana. I was single at the time, so it was a bit tough. So I stayed only 1 year in Brazil. So it was a hardship. I think you want to talk a little bit about those hardships, and it was one. I really enjoyed my job. I loved it in Brazil, and then moving to Indiana was really tough. I had to start almost from scratch. Nothing about America because I loved the US, but being single, landing during winter time in Indiana after Brazil was kind of a big contrast.
Wow. So, I mean, you've moved from Paris to Brazil, which in itself, Portuguese, so another language, another culture.
Yeah, I didn't
And
speak Portuguese at the time, and when I started my job on the first day, my boss, the CFO, started to talk to me. He was French. He's French, but he started to talk to me in Portuguese. And I didn't speak Portuguese. I had some Spanish basics, and I had started to take some lessons about Portuguese, but was really the minimum level. And I said, sorry, I don't speak Portuguese yet. He said, but you have to learn immediately because everything is in Portuguese here. We're in Brazil. And he was right. And so I learned very quickly.
wow. And then to Indiana, which another language entirely, American English.
Yeah.
Which would be very different to, I suspect, what you may have learned in Paris, in France as well.
Yes, very, very different accent. And maybe I didn't speak that well English at the time. So yeah, it was talking about the comfort zone, I really got out of my comfort zone. Even, some people could think about Brazil as a difficult place to live. Actually, no, it was wonderful. I really enjoyed it. But moving to Indiana was like another planet, different weather, different culture. I was in a small town. I was in Indiana, whereas I was in a huge town, São Paulo, in Brazil. So everything was super different.
Wow.
And so I think the language was not really the biggest difficulty.
And what did you learn from that period of time?
From the time in the US, I learned that it's important to have, when you go in such a I would say remote location, because it really felt remote, you need to make sure you make friends quickly. Mm-hmm. Because the job is important, and I was having fun, and the job was going well. But the days, the weekends were very long without friends, because I had landed in the middle of nowhere where we had just a big factory. And so very important to have friends. or to have a spouse or a partner or someone to move together. And that was not the case, so that made the challenge a bit more difficult from a personal perspective. But then, I quickly made friends, and I started to have some good relationships. It's easy to make friendships with American people. So in the end, I really enjoyed it, but I didn't stay that long because I was a bit homesick at the end. So after just 1 year, I quit. I moved back to Paris. We were in 98. In 98, the economy was booming. And I was 26, so it was 25. It was easy to find the next role. And so I moved back to Paris, and in a couple of weeks, I had my next gig in the consulting industry.
And was that Gemini?
Gemini Consulting, yeah.
And that, again, a complete change from a financial background to a consulting background. How did you adapt to that?
So it was, I wanted to go in consulting. Consulting, I think, is the best school for young people to learn about, if they are not sure about what they want to do. Sometimes you're clear about what you want to become. You want to become a doctor or an automotive engineer like my son. But when you don't know, consulting is a great school because you're going to learn about different functions, different processes, and also different industries. So you're really going to navigate kind of matrix between horizontals and verticals. So you can really discover the economic world. You meet also wonderful people. Maybe that's the place where I made most friends in terms of through my peers, through my colleagues, consulting colleagues. For instance, we had a 2 years long project with a big pharmaceutical company, Aventis. The project was in Germany. We had to move every week from Paris to Frankfurt, taking a flight at 5 a.m. or 7 a.m. on the Monday morning, flying back on the Thursday evening. And it was amazing because with this team, and it was a big consulting team, we were all located in the same hotel, close to the office in the center of Frankfurt. And so we had fun doing our job, but also fun after the work, during the nights. Even took some weekends together to go skiing, to go exploring Germany, to go exploring Eastern Europe at the time, which was less touristic. And so it was really, for that, consulting is also great. You make smart friends. And then you travel, indeed. For those who are interested in discovering different locations, different countries, that's a good opportunity.
And you were there how many years?
So I stayed with Gemini Consulting 7 years. So Gemini Consulting was a super strong strategy and management consulting firm, which was made up of some acquisitions made by the group Capgemini by the mid-90s. So they acquired Bossard Consultant in France, the Mac Group in the US, United Research, different consulting firms, and they put together everything in an independent consulting firm called Gemini Consulting. Really one of the best at the time. I mean, we had bill rates, daily rates comparable to McKinsey. It was really successful.
Wow.
And after a few years, Capgemini, you may remember, acquired Ernst & Young.
Yeah.
And they brought everybody together, the Gemini consultants, the Capgemini IT consultants, Ernst & Young partners and consultants with different cultures, different backgrounds, and they try to build a new type of consulting. And at the beginning, now it's working super well. But at the beginning, it was the merger, like any merger, was a bit difficult to leave. And that's when I decided to explore new opportunities. It took some time, and in the end, Microsoft came my way.
Wonderful. And that necessitated a move to the UK, or was that?
No, it was not unrelated to the move to the UK. It was just as I was in European headquarter. We had to cover different locations, different countries.
Wonderful. And that's clearly where we connected. And I mean, I'm impressed, and clearly you took something that you and I worked on, and we worked on it with a number of others, and you took that into a whole new level and over to the States. Tell me more.
So yes, so we started to work together on this cross-border staffing policy. I expanded the scope. So first it was just about this very limited topic, but then progressively I expanded the scope to the capacity management, capacity planning, what I mentioned before. How many people do you need to deliver your business by country, by skill? How do you project that? Especially in a people business consulting, Microsoft consulting, like any consulting business, you sell people. So you need to be super clear about your workforce. And so it's all about workforce planning. It's a complex exercise. It's not something you can get out of the systems right away. And so it's like you need some flair. You need to look at the market demand. You need to understand what the product innovation in the company. You need to understand what's also the local demand through the pipeline review exercise, etc. So that's how I expanded the scope. It went super well. I was running that from Paris actually, but with a global scope, with a global team. I had amazing consultants helping me from Accenture at the time. I used to travel to Seattle almost once a month to run project meetings with my different stakeholders. And then after the design phase in the US, we went to the different countries to roll out, to pilot the model around capacity management, including cross-border staffing, including the partners, etc., to different countries. It went super well. Right. I got what they call at Microsoft the Platinum Circle of Excellence, which was really one of my top reward in my life. I still remember that with it's an amazing memory with a trip to Hawaii and some amazing gifts, etc. And it's super impressive to get this prize. Maybe I got very lucky, and it's a teamwork. Because I was not alone driving that. I mean, there was a big team with amazing people, but in the end, they need to pick someone, and so that was me. And but it feels great, and it was a wonderful experience, and it was very special because usually they give this prize to the best sellers. Like many companies, Microsoft is a sales company, sales-oriented company, but this was not about sales. It was not about go-to-market. It was just a kind of organizational project, but with a big impact. And so receiving the prize was even more satisfactory.
So where do you go from there, though?
After that, we are in 2008. I have the opportunity to move to the US to continue my work.
Yeah.
But if you remember well, in 2008 there was a big crisis. I had already my visa; everything was ready. We had even planned the movers.
Wow.
But 2009, sorry, it was 2009. But everything was going south. There was a lot of stress. A lot of worries. And so one day I call my hiring manager there and I say, he's asking me, when do you move? When do you come? I say, I'm a bit worried. He said, you should stay. We don't know where it's going. The Microsoft stock price, I think, went down to $12. Now it's it was a different world. Everything was very worrying. So we didn't move. It was very, very disappointing because I was really expecting that move. We were ready.
Yeah.
And then suddenly you say, I stay. So obviously my family was my mother, my in-laws were super pleased that we decided to stay. But 1 year later, the opportunity came back for a different role to become strategic projects leader on different topics. Maybe we'll come back to that later. And this time we moved. The economy had stabilized, and so we moved. So we were in early 2010, and we spent with the family almost 4 years in Bellevue, close to Seattle,
Nice.
where the Microsoft office is.
Nice. Yeah, it's a nice part of the world.
Yeah, it was amazing. I really enjoyed it. And again, we made wonderful friends in that location. It's so beautiful. Honestly, it's one of the best time in my life, both from a personal perspective and also the job was great with wonderful colleagues, an amazing energy. So good times.
Wonderful. And what can I ask? Were you covering? What were you responsible?
So different projects about still in the services business.
Right.
Different projects about evolving our strategic our services business for Microsoft. One of the key project, a couple of key projects. One was about the Microsoft growth strategy for China. And I was leading the services work stream, which was super interesting because in China at the time, and I'm sure it's still the case, they don't like to pay for license. And the Microsoft business model is to sell licenses. So combining that with services to sell to the customer, not a license, but a solution could work. And so that was a little bit the strategy. And so I went to China multiple times from Seattle to lead the local project team, to put in place the project, to design, to build the business plan, and to launch eventually the strategy step by step. Now it was really an amazing period. It was for me the opportunity to discover China, which I had I had never been to China, and I really went there multiple times. I even went there once. I stayed during 1 month. So my family had moved during the summer. The family had moved back to Italy, to my in-laws for the vacation. But I did not have that many vacations. So I went to spend 1 month to accelerate the project out of Beijing. And that was a wonderful experience.
Wow. And what's coming through, Laurent, is this incredible flexibility that you've got. You know, you're talking about different cultures, different languages, but you're also talking about, you know, you're the classic project manager. You're working on very different projects, very different goals. Is that a theme? You know, how do you embrace that? How do you deal and focus with those differences?
So multiple times I took projects. I had no clue what was the ask or the objective. Even the first one we mentioned, cross-border staffing or capacity planning, I had to look on internet to see what it was, and I could not find any answer. And same with the China. I mean, I had no go. So I think what I really enjoy, that gets me excited, and I guess I'm pretty good at that, it's to get people from different backgrounds, different cultures, bring different expertise in a room together to solve a problem.
Yeah.
And to facilitate that discussion, to align everybody. That's really something I enjoy. And to give the opportunity to everyone to talk, to bring their ideas, and in the end, it's all about framing those, framing the discussion, framing the outcome, everything we have learned, and making some decisions. Because when you have 10 people in a room, sometimes you have 10 different diverse opinions. You have a feeling for the right one, and it's about making the decision and influencing. And
wow, thank you. And so the last 10 years or so,
and so
after China.
Yeah, after China, after the US, we moved back to Paris in early 2014.
Yeah.
Where I had the opportunity to become the chief of staff to the leader for the services business across EMEA. And
wow.
as a chief of staff, you're kind of a right hand to the big boss. And so it was super interesting because I got the opportunity to travel with him to maybe 20, 30 countries across Europe, on Eastern Europe, Middle East, Africa, everywhere. And I really enjoyed that. I enjoyed that because I learned a lot about the business. I met hundreds of smart people, and I had the opportunity because it's not just about sitting in a meeting room and talking about the business. There are team dinners, one-on-ones, and you get to meet different cultures, and that was really interesting. So I did that during 5 years, and then still at Microsoft, I took another job which was still in the services business around our delivery structure. So thinking about the future of delivery between offshore, nearshore, and automation. At the time, it was really disruptive to talk about automation, but how do you bring tools? Now we say agents in the delivery to accelerate the consulting gig. And how do you sell that to customers? So I led a global project team, global team out of Paris still, but mostly the team was in Seattle, and that was an amazing work, which was not easy, to have a remote team. And there I had to face a big hardship. So it went very well. Honestly, super successful. I got an amazing review one time. Well, I would say the last year of this role, in July, I got great review. And 2 weeks later, I get a call, and your team is eliminated. The American way. And it's something pretty common at Microsoft. And so that's very upsetting. And it was the first time in my career. And it was really shocking because I just had this great review, and a couple of weeks later, the team is eliminated, and there is no reason. It's not just cost saving.
Wow.
And so it was really shocking. And then, but given I had a great, let's say, a good background, a good network, I was able to quickly, it took a few months, like 4 or 5 months to find the next role at Microsoft. I moved to, so I was in a Microsoft international position. I moved to Microsoft France in what they call the customer success organization, where I stayed for 6 months, only 7 months. And then, no, a bit more, 9 months. And then I had the opportunity, I had started discussions with other companies during that transition period. And one of these companies came back and asked if I was still interested, and we relaunched the discussions, and I moved to Salesforce 1 year ago.
Wow. And at Salesforce?
And now at Salesforce, I'm part of the EMEA services organization. So you see, I'm very faithful. I'm still in the services world. And I run the operations for EMEA, and with the team based out of Germany, France, UK. And I really enjoy that. It's a great company with wonderful people. And it's a new discovery. And there is a lot to do, leveraging my experience from the past, learning from new ways of doing business, learning about new products, new styles. It's really fun. And honestly, that was a big learning. I could have stayed with Microsoft in the end, another round. But at the age I had, I thought maybe it's time to get out of the comfort zone and find something new. And that's what I did, and I don't regret it.
And that certainly seems to be a theme of your career, is you never seem to stay long in your comfort zone. You're always, there's a suggestion that you're always testing and always pushing yourself.
Yeah, that's what I like. I don't like when the job gets repetitive. It's always good to put yourself out of the comfort zone, to take risks, to fail sometime. At Microsoft, there was a culture, a wonderful, when Satya Nadella came on, and he started to build a new culture, and a big pillar of this culture comes from a book called Growth Mindset from Carol Dweck. Maybe you know the book. And it's all about learn, fail, and start again. And I think that's a good way to progress your career, and to not get bored. Because in the end, if you want to be successful, you have to find interest and passion in what you do. And if it's always the same, you lose a little bit the passion.
And looking forward, Laurent, what does the future hold for you?
So it's a bit early to say about my next role at Salesforce. I really don't know. I've done this role now for 1 year. I really enjoy it, but I still have to grow. But I would love to get back to an international position. Well, international. I'm already in an international role, but to get back to I don't know, move back to the US or move to another country. I'm still open to this type of opportunity. Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, I mean, it's your career. I have followed you from afar, but I hadn't realized, what a wonderful, varied, and quite frankly, inspirational career you've had. It's a wonderful example of how, you've pushed yourself, tried, tested yourself, and done it with a smile, and have been successful. Clearly, you've faced issues and overcome those, but that's all part of that, of your career. So, thank you.
No, thank you. And I invite everybody. I have now I can say young because I'm getting old, but younger people than me in my team. And I try always to push them to think about getting out of the regular rhythm of business. Think out of the box, push yourself, get out of the comfort zone. And that's how you can grow yourself, grow your career, and have fun. In the end, it's all about having fun. We don't work just for the money. We work also to meet people, to meet different cultures, etc.
Wonderful. And what advice would you give your 20-year-old self? Looking back now.
Advice to myself. Maybe move faster.
Okay.
Because even if it feels like that, it's been many roles, etc. But I think in a couple of positions because I enjoyed those positions, I stayed too long.
Right.
So you see, the chief of staff role, I did it for 5 years. I should have moved earlier, I think. So that's one thing. Don't stay too long in the same role, but stay at least. Still, I think you can do a good role, a good job, if you stay more than 2 years. First year you learn, the second year you build the expertise, and then you explode. But it's time to move then at the third year. I think that's my personal perspective. And so that would be one advice. I should maybe on some roles have moved faster. Also, another advice, which I wish I had received earlier, don't make a decision for your manager. Because you don't know it, because I had the opportunity to move back for a role, and I took this role when I moved back from the US to Europe. I did that for the manager, who was an amazing person. But after 1 year, he moved on to a different role.
Right.
So I was lucky, there was an amazing manager after him. But still, that was not the plan. I wanted to keep working for him at least 3 years. So don't make a decision for the manager. Make a decision for the role, for the perspectives.
Wonderful. And as I say, I think, things that I've heard you talking about, the importance of networking. I mean, that clearly has been a real, aspect of your career. It feels like it was what, helped you enjoy your jobs as you went along.
Very important to network, especially in tech companies like Microsoft or Salesforce.
Yeah.
Even more now, with these, after the COVID period, people are working from home more often.
Absolutely.
So you get to see the people less often. And so how do you build the personal connections to learn more? Because we get in those calls to work on a project, to work on a task, but we don't have really time to build the personal connection, the friendship. And I guess that's a bit difficult, especially for younger professionals, because they haven't had, for people who have started during the COVID, I know it has been very hard because they were not able to build a personal connection to the company. It's not just a job. It's more than a job, to make it fun and get some pleasure out of it.
Wonderful. Any last thoughts before we close up for the session?
I would say the family plays an important role as well. You always, I think it's key to have the family support. When I moved to the US, it was a big move for me, but maybe an even bigger move for my wife. She had to quit her job. She was fine with it, but it was, she really got off her, maybe she took a bigger risk, and she got more out of the comfort zone than me, because I was still with Microsoft, well paid. She said, no, let's go together to the US, and I will put my job on pause. So family support is very important. And also making sure you keep time for your kids, for your family. So it's really a give and get with the family as well. And then another one, it's really about, I would say, I love managing small teams. And it's a lot about listening, caring for your directs, I think. And I don't do that to get their vote. It's not about that. It's just you need to understand what's happening with them. If someone is in a bad mood one day or doesn't talk much, there might be a reason. And so you can learn about that if you listen, if you know the person beyond the tasks.
Good advice. Thank you. Laurent, it has been an absolute pleasure. Thank you. It is, as I say, it's an inspirational career. You've gone across continents. I think 4 continents. I think I counted in there.
Yeah.
And you've done it clearly with a smile.
69 countries, I think.
69 countries.
Yeah.
That is deeply, deeply impressive. So thank you for your advice. Thank you for this wonderful conversation. And I wish you nothing but the very, very best.
Thank you, Guy. It was good talking to you.